it was around this time or a little time after that you met John Bonham for the first time. This is before they were famous, and Zeppelin went on to open for you. Do you remember meeting Peter Grant for the first time?
I kept hearing about Peter, but I knew about Peter before that because Jeff Beck was going to come over and work with us. I mean, oh no, actually, I met Peter before that because Zeppelin was '68. So yeah, so I remember when I first saw him, they told me he used to be a wrestler, and he was huge. I mean, he was a huge guy, scary guy actually. But he was always good to us because we were putting the band on. You know, we were playing 8,000 seaters and selling out, and Zeppelin was on before us. The very first gig, my agent tried to get him on the gig, and the promoter Barry Fay didn't want him. It was Vanilla Fudge and Spirit. We were already sold out. He goes, I don't need him. We're sold out. So it ended up there were $1,500 for Led Zeppelin, which is funny right there, right? And he didn't want to pay that. So Vanilla, my agent said, you pay $750 and Vanilla Fudge will pay $750. I didn't know that until 2010, that we paid $750 for Led Zeppelin to be on our very first gig, which they kind of got booed a bit, you know, at that point. Nobody knew them. Nobody knew the songs. They were there to see Vanilla Fudge and Spirit, you know. And then, you know, I met
Yeah,
John
yeah.
Bonham. I loved
That,
what he did on
yeah.
Good Times, Bad Times with his feet. And I thought that was amazing. And then he said to me, he got that from me. I said, I don't do that. I mean, I was honest with him. I do not do that. He said, yeah, you did it right here in this part of this Vanilla Fudge song, which he pointed out. And I went like bop, da bop, da bop, you know, bass drum, and then snare drum, bop, da bop, da bop, da bop. So he said, so I got that and I turned it into what I did with it. And I said, wow, I didn't know I did that, but that is amazing to what you did. And we became really good friends. I mean, really good friends. And he wanted a drum set like mine, which I had a big oversized drum set because, again, there were no monitors. So the big drums were louder and you had to hit them harder to get a sound out. That's what started turning me into a total animal playing. And he loved it. And I got him the same drum set as mine. I called Ludwig and I said, this guy, John Bonham, Led Zeppelin, a new band, I think they're going to be big. I mean, I keep saying now that's an understatement of 6 decades, you know. But we became good friends.
It must have been an amazing time because it seems that almost every night that you go out the front door in your apartment block and you go down the road to see a gig, you're bumping into future legends. I mean, you were playing with everybody, and including Jimmy James and the Blue Flames, which of course was Jimi Hendrix. What do you remember about that?
The main story I remember that ties into one story is we used to play the clubs in '63 before I joined the Pigeons, and I had a soul band, you know, with horns and everything, and we played James Brown and Otis Redding and all that. And this guy Jimmy James and the Blue Flames, we kept hearing about him that he was a great guitar player, and we had a guy in our band named Ronnie Lejack that was doing the same kind of stuff. And another guy in New York called the Wizard that did a lot of sessions doing the same kind of stuff. But we never saw Jimmy, and Jimmy was flamboyant back then. He played with his teeth, and we played gigs a half hour on, half hour he played. We played half hour. At 12 o'clock, they did music on like a DJ. So we would get a break, both bands, and we'd go up in the area. It was the Upper West Side at the time was awful. It was all drug addicts, and you know, it was a bad area. So we went up to this black prostitute's apartment, and we were smoking some pot, looking out the window. And Jimmy said, "One day I'm going to make it." He said, "What about you?" And I said, "Look, I just want to make a living. I don't know about making it, you know." And then we went back to playing. Now, that apartment we were in is probably worth $2 million now. You know, and at the time
Yeah,
it was slums.
that
You
it
know,
is.
but anyway, so after Vanilla Fudge made it, I'm in England at the Speakeasy, which we played at. When we played, everybody in the music business was there. You name it, the Yardbirds, the Who, the Beatles, blah 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 blah. Everybody was there. So we were hanging out in England for a week, and they had a restaurant there. So I went in the restaurant and I saw Jimi Hendrix there, and I walked up to him and I said, "Jimmy, how you doing?" Carmine, I met you years ago when you were Jimmy James of Blue Flames. We played a gig together. The name of my band was this. I said, "You probably don't remember." I said, "But, we smoked some joints together, blah, blah, blah." And he said, "Oh, yeah, okay, so what are you doing here?" I said, "I play with Vanilla Fudge now." He goes, "Oh, man, I love the Fudge," you know? So that started, reiterated our friendship, and we did a lot together. We played tours with Jimmy. We hung out with him at the Scene in New York. We jammed with him at the Scene. We used to go to the record plant after the Scene and jam and hang out. When Cactus, we played with him. It was our very first gig with Cactus was with Jimmy.